Sometimes the most life-changing moments don't arrive with fireworks, applause, or a grand announcement. Sometimes they arrive quietly, in the soft tug of a child's hand, in the innocent choice of a little heart, and in the way someone's eyes refuse to let go of yours. This is the story of a single father, a woman who thought love and motherhood had passed her by, and a little girl who somehow saw beyond scars and struggles to find a mother where no one else was looking. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the miracles of life's unexpected turns, then please take a moment now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to FutureLens. Together we can keep these stories alive and shining. Ethan had been a single father for nearly 3 years. His life had narrowed into a routine of work, daycare pickups, late-night laundry, and the endless responsibilities that came with raising his daughter, Lily. There were days when exhaustion weighed on his shoulders like stones, but one look at Lily's little face, and he found the strength to keep going. He wasn't perfect, but he loved fiercely, and he promised himself he would give her a life filled with security and warmth, even if that meant sacrificing his own dreams. But love stories, as Ethan believed, were for other people now. His heart had been broken once, and the thought of opening it again, risking more pain, more disappointment, felt impossible. He told himself that all Lily needed was him, that she was his whole world, and that was enough. Still, there were nights when loneliness crept into the silence of his small apartment, whispering truths he didn't want to face. Life, however, has a way of bending paths toward the people we're meant to meet. On a sunlit afternoon, Ethan and Lily stopped by a local cafe after running errands. Lily loved that place. The smell of fresh bread, the potted plants by the door, the way she could swing her legs under the little wooden tables. As Ethan held her hand and guided her to an empty seat, Lily's eyes suddenly fixed on someone near the entrance. There, sitting in a wheelchair, was a young woman with long, light brown hair braided over her shoulder. She wore a soft smile, though her eyes carried shadows that only those who had lived through hardship could know. Her name was Grace, though neither Ethan nor Lily knew that yet. To them, in that moment, she was simply a stranger who would soon change everything. Grace had come to the cafe to remind herself of the world outside her apartment. A car accident years ago had left her unable to walk, and though she had rebuilt her independence in countless ways, she often felt invisible. People glanced at her and quickly looked away, as if the chair defined her more than her spirit. She had long accepted that motherhood was a dream she would never realize, believing no man would ever look past her wheelchair to see the woman she truly was. But Lily didn't look away. The little girl tugged her father's hand and whispered something only children have the courage to say out loud. "Daddy, that's my mommy." Ethan froze. He crouched down and searched his daughter's eyes, wondering if she even understood the weight of the word she had just spoken. Mommy. It was a word Ethan hadn't heard from Lily in years, not since she was too small to remember the woman who had once held her. He tried to brush it off, telling himself children say strange things sometimes. But Lily didn't waver. She pointed at Grace with her tiny hand clutching her teddy bear, her gaze full of certainty. "That's my mommy, Daddy. Can we go say hi?" Ethan's heart raced. He wanted to protect Lily from disappointment, from the possibility of rejection, from the confusion of attaching herself to someone she didn't know. But something in his daughter's insistence, something in the quiet strength radiating from the woman in the wheelchair, pulled him forward. And so, with hesitant steps, Ethan led Lily across the cafe. Grace looked up, startled to see the child approaching her with such confidence. Lily stopped right in front of her and offered the teddy bear as if it were a sacred gift. Grace blinked, unsure how to respond, but the little girl's innocent trust melted her hesitation. She reached out and gently accepted the bear, her hands trembling slightly. For the first time in a long time, Grace felt seen. Not as someone broken, not as someone to be pitied, but as someone who mattered. Ethan introduced himself awkwardly, unsure of how to explain his daughter's bold proclamation. He expected Grace to laugh it off, or to politely dismiss them. But instead, she looked at Lily, then at Ethan, and something deep inside her shifted. She hadn't realized how much she had longed for connection, how much she missed being part of something bigger than her own solitude. Over the following weeks, their paths began to cross more often. Ethan found excuses to bring Lily to the cafe, and Grace began to expect them, her days brightening at the thought of their arrival. Slowly, conversations grew longer. They shared pieces of their lives, Ethan about the struggles of single parenthood, Grace about her journey of resilience and rediscovery. And always, Lily was at the center, bridging the gap between them with her laughter, her questions, and her unwavering insistence that Grace was her mommy. Yet, as hope began to bloom, so too did fear. Ethan worried about getting too close, about the risk of his daughter's heart breaking if things didn't work out. Grace worried she could never be enough, that her wheelchair would always stand as a barrier, that Ethan would one day decide she wasn't worth the burden. There were moments of tension, nights when Ethan lay awake questioning if he was being reckless, and evenings when Grace wept quietly, wondering if she should pull away before they grew too attached. The story of their connection was not a fairy tale written in golden ink. It was messy, fragile, and frightening. But love, real love, often comes wrapped in imperfection. One evening, as the three of them sat outside the cafe under the fading glow of the sunset, Lily climbed onto Grace's lap uninvited and rested her head against her chest. Grace's hands trembled as she held the child close, overwhelmed by a sense of belonging she hadn't felt in years. Ethan watched them, his chest tight with emotions he couldn't name. For the first time, he saw not what was missing, but what was possible. He saw family. Not the one he had lost, but the one that was quietly, tenderly forming before his eyes. It wasn't easy. There were whispers from strangers, judgmental stares, and the practical challenges of blending two lives scarred by hardship. But step by step, Ethan and Grace learned to trust the fragile hope that had taken root between them. And Lily, in her innocent wisdom, never wavered. She had chosen Grace from the very beginning, and in her child's heart, that choice was final. Months later, on a crisp autumn day, Ethan bent down to kiss his daughter goodnight. She looked up at him with sleepy eyes and whispered, "Daddy, thank you for listening. Thank you for giving me my mommy." Tears burned his eyes as he tucked her in, realizing just how much her small voice had reshaped his entire world. And Grace, no longer just a woman in a wheelchair, no longer invisible, sat in the living room surrounded by toys and laughter, her life fuller than she had ever dared to dream. She hadn't just been chosen by a little girl. She had been chosen by life itself to discover that love doesn't measure legs or scars. It measures hearts. If this story has touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to FutureLens. Your support helps us continue sharing stories of kindness, resilience, and the extraordinary power of love. Before we end, I have a special request. Drop a comment below and tell us, do you believe children sometimes see truths we adults overlook? Your words might inspire someone who needs this reminder today. Because sometimes, family isn't the one you're born into. Sometimes it's the one you build from broken pieces, the one you discover when you least expect it, and the one a little girl, holding a teddy bear, chooses with all her heart.